Most families aren't broke, they are land rich. And that's exactly why probate and taxes can turn into a crisis. As baby boomers age, we're heading to the biggest wealth asset transfer of our lifetime. And the families who plan early keep control. If you don't plan, the taxman will be definitely in your pockets. Not because you did anything wrong, but because the default system is expensive. Today, I'll explain what probate is, why it exists, the traps that create family fights, and the clean solution: an estate liquidity plan. If your kids don't have liquidity, they don't inherit the land. They inherit a big, huge bill. Welcome back, everyone. I am Rico, and this is Farmers in Finance podcast. So, if you're just tuning in today, welcome, and I hope this is live. Nothing is held back. If you don't know me, I'm a real estate agent here in the beautiful Okanagan. Today is April 29, 2026. And we are live from Headley, BC. What a beautiful town. And today looks like a beauty. Here in my studio, and I'm enjoying already some sunshine. The sun rises early because we are in the springtime. Time to get moving, time to get planning, but also time to pay your taxes. Anyways, if you haven't tuned to the show, this is your first time, I want to welcome you and thank you for watching or for listening, because these shows are then taken and broadcast to all sorts of platforms. You can find me on YouTube, you can find me on Spotify, you can find me on Apple Podcast, and any other ways. Oh, I'm live on LinkedIn and I'm live on Facebook. So definitely can't miss me out there and hear my voice and helping you how to navigate this crazy world, crazy world. Apologies for not being here last week, but I attended an amazing conference. I love conferences, and this one was put out by eXp Realty, and it was just about, I didn't know what to expect. It was my first one since I joined, and luckily it was in Vancouver, so it wasn't too far from home. And just met some really cool people, like entrepreneurs, people that want to make change, but good change. And they are truly wanting to help people. It was just amazing, like seeing these folks that are high up. They're famous in somewhat. They're great sell people, but they are also like great guides into real estate. And they were just like, if there's anything I can help you with, more than welcome to call me. And I was like, what? I met the CEO, I met the founder, Glenn Sanford, Leo Pereira, and just sat down with some big names in real estate. And these people were so humble. It just regenerated me and gave me a new outlook on the beauty of being helpful and guiding people, and probably one of the most biggest decision in their life, which is a home, but also in guiding people in wealth, right? So it was a great experience, and I'm sorry I couldn't take the podcast on the road, but I was thinking about it because the conference didn't start until 9 o'clock, but it was kind of too close, and maybe I would have to change my times. So welcome back. This is on the last episode. Let's recap. What we talked about was the credit score. That's episode 28. And you can find it as well on my website, farmersinfinance.com. So it's pretty easy to go back to the shows, and you can go to Spotify, YouTube, like I said, and you can re-listen. But that show, I thought it was pretty powerful because it's something that actually everything that I talk about, it's never talked about anywhere. And I don't know why there's no more people talking about it. But anyways, it starts with me always. It starts with you. If you hear something that makes sense and you haven't explored before, don't just take my word. Maybe I should make it a disclaimer, but go out and research. There's so much information out there right now with technology and everything at our fingertips, with our phones, with our desktops, with even with people. Like, more and more people are coming to more and more knowledge. And there's so much knowledge in books, right? Like I got a stack, and you got to increase your knowledge because we are living in a system where it doesn't help people. It actually restricts people from their freedoms. And that is why I started my channel, Financial Freedom with Rico. It's a place where we can free ourselves, free our minds, free our bodies, free our physical restrictions, location, or anything like that. And we can move towards a better world, right? A happy world. Because in simplicity, like our founders, our ancestors, all they wanted is to be happy and for the next generation to be happy. So let's be happy. So a recap from last week, that was a little bit of a tangent. We talked about the credit score and how important it is in especially making applications, whether it be you're buying a house or getting a loan. Loans, obviously, probably it would be better if they were to use for asset building, which means like starting a business, buying shares in a business, or having a property, starting an Airbnb, or anything like that, that will generate an income that you can retire on. Isn't that financial freedom for some people? So this one is a little bit different. We're going back. I talked about this before in previous shows, but I was talking to people at an open house, and one of them was like, I'm going to liquidate everything because I am scared of the probate process and what it does. And my family can't afford for me to go into probate and liquidate my property. So I'm going to do it before, right? And so that made me question. And then another talk that I was having, that this time I was having a talk with a client of mine, and it was about like the fear. So my client's, his sister lost her husband unexpectedly, obviously, and their husband left debt, left kids. They were married for many years. They were best friends. They were partners. And it left this financial burden that made my client realize, I don't want to leave this to my kids. And so I base my shows based on what I experience, what's on the word out there, what's unfortunately trending. It's not something to be proud of, but it's that question. It's like, what happens? How many taxes? And what's the burden that I leave to my kids, right? And how can I fix that, right? So if you want to know more, let's stay tuned in and let's get started. So I usually start the show with the quote of the day, and I know I've used this one before, but man, it's a good one. It'll never grow old. And this one is from James Clear, Atomic Habits. If you haven't read the book, highly recommend it. If you want to click on the code, I will put a code down below in the description whenever you're watching this live. It's not so easy, but anyways, you don't rise to the level of your intention, you fall to the level of your system. So estate planning is crucial. It's number one. If you don't want to leave a burden to your kids. So what is estate planning? Well, it's just planning what happens in the case of the event that nobody wants to talk about. So if you don't build one, guess who will build one for you? And it's the government. And if you get the government's plan, let me just ask you this in the comments, and you can chat with me live wherever you're watching this, and I encourage that because we grow together. So if you have a questions in any of the slides or any of the shows, oh, speaking of slides, yeah, let's add them to the stage. Yeah, they're land rich. Yeah, so ask questions, right? Comments, participate. It keeps you awake too if this shows puts you asleep. Yeah, so going back, estate planning. Don't let the government do it for you, and get into the systems. And guess what? Like I was talking to the lady, there's nowhere where you get taught. Before, when you passed away, it was just a learning process, and you will only get it through somebody that went through it. And let me tell you, nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to relieve the feelings and the pains and the process because it's lengthy, it's brutal, and it doesn't feel good. And that's why I call it the pain, right? And it is what it is. You know, like some people think that you know it's there's no other way, but there is plenty of ways. It's just that the government, guess what? It's not going to teach us about it. And I'm not anti-government. I'm just anti-stupid policies, right? And the government and systems, obviously. But the government has created these systems for it to profit, right? Because it is a corporation, right? And then there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that it's getting too big because there's no accountability for it. The people are not holding the government accountable because they don't know how. Guess what? Why do the government controls the education system? Why does the government decides the healthcare system? You know, why does the government controls real estate? Why does the government controls your rights on how to use it? So, again, I'm not against the anti-government, but I'm a farmer. I'm a former farmer. I'm still a farmer. And all the revolutions started with farmers, if you look back at history, because we work hard, but if you get into our pockets, we fight back. So I'm not saying it's time to fight. There's other ways to come to resolutions, but now it's time to negotiate. Who has the most power, right? Does the government or the people? When I was at a seminar about free man on my land, the guy pointed out, hey, look, the government enforces their laws through who? The RCMP and the police, right? But if you look at the ratio of police to people, there's probably one policeman every 100, maybe 200 people. What's that going to do? It just, but they need to create the facade to listen to us because they're not negotiating. They're just stating the law and then they just enforce it. And nobody's going to stand up nowadays and take their rights back. So nothing wrong with the government. There is a place for it, just like a doctor. There's nothing wrong with doctors, but when they start prescribing way too many freaking prescriptions that don't make you healthy, then there's something wrong. Okay? So it's the same thing. You know, everybody knows that eating a salad is better than eating a freaking burger with fries, right? So it's common sense. Let's bring back common sense. All right. let's not divulge here. Let's get back to the show. Um, Probate. What is probate? Probate 101. Okay, in simple words, um, it's a legal process that confirms a will and it's valid. Make sure that the will is valid and gives someone, the executor, so to speak, the authority to deal with the person's assets. So whatever's in the will be carried out by the executor. It exists to protect the families and the creditors by making sure the right person is in charge and the right documents are followed. Most people aren't taught this in school because it's legal financial administration. But it becomes real the moment there's land, money, or family complexity. And the worst time to deal with it is when someone dies. And it catches you, man. And just like my friend was talking about, like he was saying his sister was grieving of their loss. Imagine losing imagine it, but don't really get caught into it. But imagine losing your friend, your best friend, your partner for 23 years. And then all of a sudden you get a knock on the door. Hey, you haven't paid your mortgage. What kind of mental state are you in? Are you able to withstand these strong pulls from the government and then be able to go to the bank account and be able, oh God, there is $50,000 in debt. How are we going to pay this? Over top of grieving for your partner. I mean, I don't wish that on anyone. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this, why I'm here to educate people. And obviously I don't know it all, but through educating people, I see it like it's a spreading of knowledge, and knowledge is key to overcome fears, right? Without knowledge, you don't know what's going on, what's going to happen, and you worry, and that's fear. So with knowledge, you know exactly what's going to happen. And with knowledge comes great powers, right? And then it comes the responsibility to spread it. It just doesn't start with just me. I'm just here teaching you. But if you share my show to somebody that, hey, maybe this guy can help you, right? And then you can bring them and we can help them together. Because what I do, it's easily teachable and you can just teach it to somebody else. It's not rocket science. I never think anything that is rocket science. I mean, I did engineering and that was really cool. You learn a lot about physics and how things move, and there is equal reactions to any force applied, right? So it's like it applies to life, energy, right? And expanding. So put it out there, get out there, help people. You'll see it. It'll turn around in your life too. It's just amazing. It's one of the greatest feeling. You get purpose, no issues with mental health. Just you get out there and help people. That's what it comes down to. Pretty simple. Most people aren't taught this in school. So where are we going with this? Probate pain usually come from three things, right? There's three things that are really crucial with the probate process, and it's time. How much time is it going to take? Why does it take so much time? What to expect? Cost. Obviously, there's money, because when there's people put in motion, they need energy, right? And number one causes of all health problems is stress. So when it comes to farmers and farms, this is hard because, as we all know, land is not liquid. You can't sell it that quickly, right? And when you sell it under pressure, and unfortunately, as real estate agents, we can tell if you're under pressure. It always gets sold below what you should be getting for it. So this is not just local here in BC, but this is Canada-wide, okay? But I think it's worldwide per se, because every government got their own system. I mean, there's definitely governments that have easier systems than others, um, yeah. So we will just talk about what Canada does and what to expect from Canada. I hope that's clear, but if it's not, let's go take a look at what I put inside of my beautiful, trusted. Let me just put the slides here and go over here, and then I gotta find that page. Here. What is probate? Probate, again, is the legal process of validating a will, settling debts, and distributing assets after someone passes away. In Canada, including BC, it's handled through the court system. That's why it costs money. Why it matters for farm families. Delays can take months, sometimes even longer. I've heard of probates taking up to 2-3 years, depending on who contests the will and what kind of problems can arise from that. Okay. So their costs are, like what we were talking about, probate fees and legal costs. So this can be done individually, but it's a huge learning process. So sometimes the executors relies on lawyers most of the times. Notary public can't really do much about this, but and they can't offer you legal advice. So whenever you're going to the legal cost, it would have to be through a lawyer, right? And then there's the probate fees to open up the courts and get the judge to make the decision and to review the will and all that. And then you got to invite everybody. And then it's got to be public record. Your estate becomes visible. Everything is made public. So if you like your privacy and you like how things are handled within the home and you want to keep it at home and private, that's one of the things that you got to plan for. And then there's also operational risks, like especially with the farm, right? It's a continuous moving system. So you want it to keep moving forward, right? You can't pause it. Imagine if I stopped watering my garden for a week, what would happen, right? I would lose the crop. Why would I want to do that, right? So there's a lot of things to take into consideration in the probate process, but I hope that's simple enough to understand what it is, right? And it is simple. I mean, it is logical as well, right? So, okay, let's just remove this. Let's go back to the slides. Then rich and cash poor. So this is practically one of the main things of farmers, but sometimes it applies to people as well. And it's not just, so it's just about the hairs, right? Like who are you leaving it to, right? Like I was saying, this keeps popping in my mind, so that's why I can't erase it. But the lady that wanted to liquidate before she died so that she wouldn't leave the burden to their kids of not having enough liquidity in her home, is just, she was trying to avoid, even there's product and mortgages out there, it's called a reverse mortgage or a home equity line, where you can take out that equity and then when you die the property gets sold and then the remainder gets spread out across the will and everything like that. But that causes a lot of problems, especially when families, like when you see your kids are struggling, like most families are. And it's not to say because they don't work. I mean, they're working hard. It's just that there's so much, right? 2 kids, 2 families, and I'm an example of it. And with everything going up in cost, like your groceries, your cell phone bills, and all that stuff, and your gasoline to get to work, and you live remotely away into rural areas, and especially with farm families, right? Like there's a lot of distances from the city because the land, as you get closer to the city, it gets more expensive. So to farm, you need to get away from the city, but then it starts becoming time cost and money cost on transportation. So obviously, when somebody passes, there needs to be three things in the will, right? There needs to be an authority who has the right to act. There needs to be clarity who gets what, and that's what can extend the will. So that's another discussion. If you start preparing now for the will and you put everybody on notice that, hey, I'm leaving a will, this is what I'm leaving, you can already negotiate and make sure that everyone is happy with the outcome. Obviously, it's tough talk, but have that talk because it actually brings up other situation or other problems, and you get to negotiate them before destroying the family. In some cases, this can destroy the family, especially when it comes to cash, right? Like this is the last one right now. What do you have, right? The number one thing that what happens with probate is the bill. Who's going to pay the bill, right? Obviously, if you don't know, and again, it all comes with planning, but let's go and see, like from the slide here, kids don't always inherit an asset. Because again, leaving, for example, this lady, again, I'll go back to the example, but this lady was going to leave her apartment condo in Osoyoos, right? But then when you look at it, now the kids already have a primary residence, so they would inherit this as an investment property. So whenever property transfers here in BC, I'm pretty sure that it happens everywhere in Canada, there is a so-called property transfer tax. So that property transfer tax is to be paid by the kids. And if there is no funds or cash or liquidity in this state, that property transfer tax either has to come from them or the kids have to sell the property. And then they will transfer it to somebody else that will take care of the property transfer tax. Then in engaging that's pretty much what it takes. But then you add on top the cost of maybe the property had a mortgage, so you're going to take over the mortgage. Are you going to be able to qualify for that mortgage? Because now the whole pictures has just changed, right? So maybe you're going to lose it because the bank says, no, I don't give you that. This is your investment property. You're already full of credit. You maxed your credit, right? And that's what we were talking about last week. Whenever you purchase an asset, you got to make sure that your credit score and your credit capability is increased, right? So let's go back to the slide here. There's legal and admin costs, right? There's probate fees, there's lawyer bills, there's the executor cost, and unfortunately, if you don't pay your executor, probably he's going to quit halfway through the process and leave you hanging. And I've heard of that stuff happening too, right? So you got to pay everyone. It takes energy, so energy's got to be compensated. So then there is taxes triggered at death, right? The big one is capital gains. We were talking with this lady as well that Mark Carney, our beautiful prime minister, is deciding to put capital gains even on primary residences. So the bill is getting through, but I hope it doesn't get accepted, man, because Canadians are just way too nice. That's all I have to say. Then there is RRSPs and RRIFs. So what are those? Well, RRSPs is just your retirement savings plan that you put away all your life. But sometimes what happens is, the husband dies first, so there's a complete transfer to the wife, right? The wife gets all the RRSPs. Now, she has to take them out if you are forced to take them out after the age of 71, so they don't become anymore an investment, they become a payment for you. But what happens to your income? Maybe your OAS, you're not getting enough pension, right? So, and it increases your income, so it increases the way you pay on taxes. And so what happens if, usually, I don't want to jinx it, but usually when the husband or the wife dies, the husband or the wife die a couple of years later or 3 years later. And now the kids are left with all these RSPs that they didn't have a beneficiaries. So they go into the last tax year of the deceased, and then guess what? Capital gains are 54 to 68%, right? And then it's all gone. Money that the heir thought that they were going to receive, they're not going to receive it, right? It's all taken away. So there is planning to do there as well, right? All due equalization between siblings. And this one becomes very emotional. This is part of the probate process and the will writing, where, sometimes a kid doesn't want to farm, right? Doesn't want to keep going. They want to move to the city. Or maybe a kid that is living in the city is realizing, man, I want to go back to the farm. And now, you're leaving the farm and you're deciding who gets it and what does it do. And there's been plenty of movies out there that have exposed this, return to the land and then return to the city and city life and all that stuff, right? So there's lots of things to talk about and to plan. And obviously, there is, strategies and systems, but it's not an everyday conversations. You have to listen to somebody, or you have to be triggered by somebody, and then you got to get into action, right? So let's move on to the 5 most common estate mistakes that are made. So when it comes to creating a will, the worst mistake that you could do is not do it. And I already done a show about this, the importance of a will, but I gotta keep repeating it. I gotta hammer it at home. I gotta have more calls. Hey, like, Rico, how do I get a will? And there's so many easy ways now. Like, before, it used to be so hard. You only had the notary or the lawyer, but now you can, mesh it into an asset change, or whenever you're changing your assets. But there's so many programs out there that make it so easy, because it should be easy, right? Like, and it should be signed over on a piece of paper, and it should be, like, registered. Register your will. That's so important. And if you don't know how to start one, where to go, where to look for, at any age, I'm not kidding, any age is important to have a will. From when you start purchasing an asset, when you start saving for your retirement, you gotta have a will. Please, people. There is $1 billion of unclaimed funds inside the probate process and inside the probate courts, because it gets too expensive and people don't want to pull it out. Like, I mean, if people leave, like, a 20-year-old has saved $2,000 and it costs $3,000 to get those funds out, what do people do? They just leave it, right? And who gets those funds? The government. And are we seeing the benefits from that? No, people, because they're just spending it. Governments are made to spend because they need to keep that money in circulation, in motion. They need to borrow, but that affects us all without asking us for permission to do that, because they don't give us the full control. They don't give us the full picture, right? They give us little pieces here and there. Oh, I told you guys. And then all of a sudden, they pass these laws on Christmas Day or something like that, right? Anyways, not again bantering the government, but we definitely need to put more control. So no plan or an outdated will. If you wrote one like 10 years ago, in 10 years, I mean, even in a year, there's a lot that can change, right? Like, maybe you bought a property. Maybe you sold a car. Maybe now you got a car that is a collectible. Like, there's so many assets that could be included, and you started a savings account or an FHSA, right? Like, if you don't have a will, you don't have a plan. So keep your plan going every year. Review it. If you don't know how to review it, just give me a call. My email is going down below. There's the QR code to go to my website. Just talk to people. If it's not me, talk to someone that knows and gives you passionate. I'm with the brokerage Experience Financials. There's some amazing people in there too. So you can get an agent. If you don't know any agents, wherever you're watching this, if you're watching this in Alberta, we spread across the country from New Brunswick to BC, right? So give us a call. It doesn't cost money. It actually makes your life a lot easier. So ownership title doesn't match intent. That means that when you give ownership to somebody, you don't know if they're gonna even accept it. Because it takes the will and the process to go through it and owning something. But if you don't know how to own it as well, you could be putting a burden on somebody, right? And then there's always this duality between what's equal and what's fair, right? They're not the same thing. Equal means that everybody gets the same piece of the pie, but fair takes into consideration like how much time was spent by certain people to like I want to make the example. It's like if one of your kids is working on the farm and consistently there, would it be equal to split the farm equally with the other kids, even if the other kids have left the farm and don't want anything to do with it? Or would it be fair to give more of the farm to the kids and maybe split something else differently? Well, that's what always comes about. It's like fairness. How do you negotiate that before it turns ugly and it destroys, the family in a way? Everybody should be free to make their own choices, right? Don't stay silent, right? Until it's an emergency. Don't be quiet until like it's too late, or it's like, oh man, we got to do this, we only have this choice. Oh gosh, man. And that is even draining, because some of the kids, there's different personalities. And another account that reminds me of is another client of mine, that she took the executor job, and she was part of the will, right? And she was one of the beneficiaries, but she took the burden because she's the first child and she has a job. She's still taking care of their mom, and she should be retired. She's like 67, right? But she still works. She works night shifts. She's a nurse, so she takes care of people, right? And it's not easy to take care of people, let me tell you. And then moreover, has the loss of her dad's place, and their dad's was hoping to do something. It's not about farming, but it's similar, just because the dad thought that there was a ton of value in the land and the way he built it and the way he wanted it to go to the different people. And what he wanted to do is split it up fairly, but then all the kids left off. They never talked to him, right? And then the big sister knew all about this, right? And she split. She doesn't know what to say, because she didn't say anything before it was too late, until it's gone, right? So, and then number 5, the number 5 mistake is liquidity. Oh my goodness. You gotta have an emergency plan. It doesn't have to just be for probate purposes. It's just, you need to have an emergency fund. And usually what I suggest is to have at least 3 months of the income into the emergency fund. So for families nowadays, probably that looks like $15,000 to $30,000. Put it into a easy liquidity account, maybe like a TFSA if you haven't maxed out your TFSAs. But have it there, compounding interest, and just stay there, because that will give you peace of mind. It's like having, a reserve of fuel when you're taking a long trip, right? Life is a long trip. So it's always good to have a reserve of energy. Like, let's look at money like energy. Oh my God, the sun is coming up, and it's just unbelievable. Yeah, it's awesome. I love the sunshine. So yeah, have a liquidity strategy. Uh, don't make the mistake like most people. And this one is hits home because with liquidity you can do anything, right? And that's why we're all trying to achieve financial freedom, is to have liquidity that we don't have to worry about where our next paycheck is coming from. But that doesn't mean that we get to sit on the beach. No, it just means that we have peace of mind and we can help other people achieve what they want to achieve. That would be the dream, live in the Garden of Eden, especially with farming. Okay, let's go to our next slide. Oh, the pictures didn't load. The family needs the cash fast, right? And this is what we were talking about. You need to have, at least the contingency fund or reserve fund or anything. Like even in apartments, right? They call it the reserve fund or the contingency fund. It's because you don't know, with a house, you need to prepare for future problems or future updates, right? And so you got to put away money, and that's why you pay the fees that you do whenever it's a strata or a condo or even a house. You should be putting money away for maintenance, right? Like everything deteriorates, and you got to pay for the roof, and you got to pay for the siding and the doors and any type of fixing, right? Like, don't expect it to not happen. It's gonna happen. It's inevitable, just like death and taxes. Um, you can also apply for credit before, right, and arrange it, and get pre-approval, because that would help you better sustain the burdens and not when you need it. Because this is one of the mistakes a lot of people make, and I'm guilty of that too. I've done it before. It's like especially when I started, like I tell you a little story, when I started real estate. It's cost heavy at the beginning. Like, you got to pay for the courses, you got to pay for the licensing, and so I started maxing out my credit cards, but then didn't leave room for the other costs that came about. So I went to apply, but now my credit was at the max, and credit card companies see that, and they're like, no, we can't give you credit. You're already using your maximum liability, so that's what you're doing. You're just accumulating it. That doesn't look good. And my credit score just took dives and everything like that. So it took a while to re-establish it, right? So if I was to pass away, oh man, that wouldn't look good for my family or anybody else, right? Like, I would leave them with debt, right? And number one, and this is why I'm here, I was not a believer in insurance because of what happened. But now I'm a warrior. I want people to get insurance. You need to have insurance. You put insurance on your car. You put insurance on your tractor. You put insurance whenever you buy a product. Hey, would you like to have the insurance plan? They don't call it insurance plan, or else you won't take it. But coverage for an extra $20, your thing is covered for 2 years over top of manufacturing. And what do? Yes, of course I want it. Why would I not want it? Like, they make it so easy to say yes. But when it comes to life insurance, you go, ooh, no, I don't want to think about that. That's not good. I'm not going to die tomorrow. And then it's pennies on the dollars. For like $25, you can have a $500,000 policy coverage, and you're covered, right? Like, obviously it depends on age. This is a quick disclaimer. Everything that I'm saying, it's not for individual purposes. It's to just create better understanding of how the process goes about insurance. Anyways, thank you for the disclaimer. Back to the show. So, I was just looking. Oh, sorry. Okay, so Yeah, insurance, so important. Get it done. And guess what? When probate comes about, it takes money up front, right? With insurance, most of the insurance companies, they pay within 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, you get the full funds. Whatever it is that you're covering, right? Like you want to extinguish the mortgage, in 2 weeks it gets paid off. You want to extinguish all the debts that your husband had left because he was starting his company and he was trying to work hard. It's all paid. Don't have to worry about it. 2 weeks, right? Like, what kind of peace of mind? What other things can offer you that peace of mind, right? Oh, insurance don't pay, that they're a scam and everything like that. No, if it's in the contract, they pay, right? You could just got to look at the contract. You just got to understand contract law. And that's so important, right? And you got to have good underwriters and people that can help you, right? Not to make any names, Ricardo, it's pretty good. Or Rico, it's pretty good. He'll get you fixed up. Give me a call anytime, 236-457-4230. No plug. Okay, let's go to the next slide here. The RRSP RRIF tax bomb. Oh my God. This more and more, like we started the show that this is going to be the biggest wealth transfer. We're going through the biggest wealth transfer because baby boomers are now aging to the age where they're passing on, right? And with that said, the baby boomers have collected a lot of wealth over their lifetimes. And there is, I don't know what they were talking about, like $2 trillion of transfer of wealth in the next 10 years. And that is some significant wealth transfer that the government is going to benefit from it. But if we don't hold them accountable, like I said at the beginning of the show, man, they're just going to waste it. They're going to put it into wars, right? And create more problems. Why? Because if they create more problems, then they make more laws, and then they make more laws, and then they make more taxes. So unfortunately, it's like a never-ending loop. It's kind of like the snake biting his tail, right? We'll be stuck in a circle and not going anywhere, right? If we don't let them be accountable. You know, I use this show as well to get my voice out because I'm fed up with all of this, right? Like, I don't want to talk to struggling people. I want to talk to people that are like, you know what? That suggestion you made about that investment, that was a good one. I made $10,000. That's the people that I want to help and help grow, right? But anyways, that's a little plug again. I went on a tangent. So the RRSP RRIF bomb. What does that mean? Oh man. Okay, so like I said before, if there is a spouse, that's fine. It just passes on straight. So the spouse has this extra income. But having said that, that extra income might actually put a burden on your spouse because now she's in a higher bracket, and higher brackets tend to bring down the level that you have of pension, because then now you're not qualified for the old age pensions anymore, or they reduce your benefits, right? And so that causes your wife or your partner more problems, right? So now, if there's no spouse now, all that money just gets sucked back by the government into taxes, right? And if there's no planning there, you know, like, again, it's lost, right? And there is strategies and there is planning that needs to be done, but it would take way too many shows to do it. And I'm trying to cover as much as I can to give a broader picture, because I also don't want to confuse people. I just want to make it as simple as possible. And I hope this is simple and understandable. But you got to look into it. And you got to talk to myself. You got to talk to an accountant, especially an accountant, what will help you guide on how to make it the most tax efficient transition. right? For everything, and plan every single stage. It's easy. Now we've got tools like AI, right? That can actually, consult before you go to the accountant, and then you say, hey, I want to ask, what questions should I ask my accountant so that I get the perfect plan for myself and my situation, right? Every situation is different. So tax smoothing helps. Did you know that you can take out RSPs any time of your life? A lot of people don't know that. You don't have to start at 60 or 65. People think, oh, I'm going to start retiring plan. No, they're a savings account, and you just take them out whenever you want, whenever you need to. I had to take my RSPs out at one point, at every point. Every time I start a business and you need funds and capital, you can take your RSPs out. And you're going to pay taxes because, yes, it becomes your income, but at least you are not having this big, huge burden left of all these funds over to your heirs, right? And then you're not going to pay taxes like at the end of the year, right? So I don't know if I made this clear, but once you pass away and there's no spouse to leave the RSPs to, the full account. So say you have saved up, you're 55 and you have saved up now $500,000 in your bank account. That becomes fully your income for the last year. So your family will only get, let's say they get 250,000, half of that. Half. How fair is that? I don't know. I don't think that's fair. You spent all this time to give it to the government so that it can make more laws to take more money. Whoa. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I should make a revolution by myself. Who's with me? Anyways, so planning, smoothing, tax smoothing helps, must be modeled. Affects the tax brackets and then the government benefits, right? Like what I said before. I was already talking about this, but it definitely gives you a higher income, right? But you need to take it out. RRIF at the age of 71 here in Canada, they force you to take out your RSP, retirement savings plan. And I have had a lot of people saying, "Hey Rico, how can I do this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know this might sound brutal, but it's too late. Now you're going to lose your old age pension, and because you're entering the higher tax brackets, now you're not going to get the same." And it's hard, but there's ways. There's a way that it's called RSP smoothing, and maybe I should talk about it, where you actually invest into an investment, and then you can take a loan out on your RSPs. And because you pay the interest on the loan, then it kind of smooths out your income tax because you can deduct it off your income, personal income tax. But anyways, that's for another show. Or I kind of mentioned it in another show before. So 4 questions every farm family should ask themselves. Can probate be avoided? Sometimes reduce, talk to your lawyer. Talk to an expert, talk to me, come and talk to somebody, right? Like, I'm just creating this plan for my buddy there, and we're trying to see the many ways of avoiding a probate. And I did put that into ChatGPT, and I wanted to share it with you because this is a very good one. Top 5 ways farm can induce or avoid probate. A living trust. That's a huge one, right? Like, and you can guide it, and you can make it like a will of where the assets goes. Like, hey, if you take this money, it's because you're gonna get married and you're gonna start a family. Or hey, this money can only be used for so on and so forth, right? Then there is joint ownership. So for the cost of about $1,500 to $2,500, you can become joint owners on the property. So usually the kid that can afford it the most takes over the joint ownership. So when a family member or the farm gets passed away, or the dad passes away, he takes full ownership, and then he decides what to do, right? And make it fair. So that is if the case, if the family is in good standing. And then number 3 is beneficiary designations, right? So when you have life insurance, you can name beneficiaries, and beneficiary is just who's going to receive, or who's going to receive the benefits of whatever you are issuing. And then some investment accounts have beneficiaries eligibility so that you can elect a member of your family or a friend. And RSPs and RRIFs, they also have beneficiaries designations. So talk to an accountant or talk to me and find out which one works best for your situation. And then another big one is incorporating the farm. Incorporation helps protect the assets because you're creating a different entity. And in that entity, you can pass on the shares. So you just create little pieces of the pie. As you can see the picture, you create little pieces of the pie and you say, this much to you, this much to you. And you just share it just like you would share a pie. Huh? And then there is gifting. Gifting is tax-free. And you can do it gradually. You can set up a contract. I've seen people setting up a contract that they will get to live the rest of their life on the farm for the farm itself. So you can pass on that ownership, but obviously that implicate taxes, strategies, and everything like that. And especially with capital gains. So that's mainly what I wanted to mention for some of the solutions to avoid probate, because that's a big one. A lot of people ask me about that. And yeah. Okay. Well, that brings us to the end of the show. Well, thank you for staying all the way to the end. Don't drop off yet. I know it's been long. I know it's been quite the wine and turns. But what I want to end this with, and the slides has it there, don't let the kids inherit a mess, inherit chaos. Start building the plan now. I got plenty of templates to start building the plans, and I got many plans, different ways, from investments, from insurance, from income too, how to create and generate more income in your life so that you can do the things that you deserve doing. And for insurance plans, I don't like the insurance word. Maybe it should be assurance, but assurance creates liquidity, and it's the biggest factor that happens when a probate happens. It's where is the cash going to come from? Where's the funds to end this? So for booking a call, you can go on my website, ricardomanazza.com. There, it's easy. There's a click button, but that's split between the two, my real estate and my financial advising. That's my personal, well, it's not my personal, it's my business website. But you can also reach me at farmersinfinance.com or email me at rico@farmersinfinance.com. And I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Obviously, with emails, it takes me about a day. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the show. If you were watching here live, if you were watching it here on, on YouTube, LinkedIn, please give a like. If you're watching it later, I know this is too late, but subscribe, comment, and tell me no. Give me some feedback. I'm open to hearing all the feedback out there. Thank you so much again. I really appreciate you taking the time. And I hope that this helps you or your family or anybody that you can think of and creates that spark, that inspiration to go and have these talks. Let's start talking about this. Let's start talking about everything, the government, the people, what else should be done, the politics. Just not avoid it anymore. It's not time to avoid it. It's time to shine. It's time to rise. It's time to rise, right? I want to leave you with that. Thank you so much. Again, this is Rico, farmersinfinance.com. It's where you can reach me. I hope to see you next week for episode 30. Okay, goodbye, everyone. Bye-bye.